with the involvement of instructors and advisors from the European Union and NATO countries. Okay, so that means NATO troops in Ukraine on military bases, training the Ukrainian army how to fight the Russians.
And how do you think Russia's going to feel about that, Rick?
Well, we're about to find out. Because they told us today, and it is very obvious where they're going with this. So TASS news agency said Medvedev, that's the former president of Russia, Medvedev called the Kiev project of security guarantees a prologue to the Third World War. In other words, the opening, these Zelensky demands. This is the opening act to the Third World War.
That's from the Russian perspective.
Yes.
So when they're responding to the Zelensky document that we were just talking about here moments ago, and basically Mr. Medvedev is saying, this is, all right, you guys have started World War III here.
Oh,
you
yeah.
realize that,
and
right?
he said it in a Telegram post today, and I translated it from Russian to English, and you know, I discovered that Russian emojis mean the same thing in English. Okay, so let's read this, Doc.
So the Kiev Camarilla gave birth to the project of security guarantees, which in fact are a prologue to the Third World War. This is Dmitry Medvedev saying this. Of course, no one will give any guarantees to Ukrainian Nazis. This is almost the same as applying Article 5 of the NATO treaty to Ukraine. For NATO, it's the same crap, only side view, so it's scary. Our sworn friends, Western chiefs of various calibers to whom this hysterical proclamation is addressed, must finally understand one simple thing. It directly concerns NATO's hybrid war with Russia. If these fools continue the unrestrained pumping of the Kiev regime with the most dangerous types of weapons, then sooner or later the military campaign will move to another level. It will no longer have visible boundaries and the potential predictability of the parties to the conflict, and it will follow its own military scenario involving new actors. And it's always been that way.
Okay, let's go back. Let's go back to this. Okay, so let's take a look at this in the second paragraph. He refers to the Western countries. He says, our sworn friends. And sarcastically, Medvedev says, Western chiefs of various calibers to whom this hysterical proclamation is addressed. They need to understand one thing. It directly concerns NATO's war with Russia. Not Ukraine's war.
Yes.
NATO's war with Russia. And he said, if these fools, and he's talking about Biden and was Boris Johnson and now Liz Truss, and it would be King Charles and
Olaf Scholz of Germany,
Scholz and Macron of France. If these fools continue with an unrestrained pumping of the most dangerous weapons to the Ukrainian army, sooner or later, the Russian military, what they call special operation,
right,
will move to another level. It's war.
Yes.
That is outright declaration of war. It will no longer have visible boundaries, meaning the fighting will not be contained inside Ukraine.
It'll involve wherever the fight takes them.
And the potential predictability of the parties to the conflict, and it will follow its own military scenario involving new actors. New actors, okay, on both sides. That means China, Iran, Belarus, North Korea are all going to come into this war. That's what he's saying, Doc. New actors.
Now, Mr. Medvedev went on in his Telegram post. He said, the Western countries will not be able to sit in their clean houses and apartments laughing at how they carefully weaken Russia by proxy. Everything is flooding around them. Their people are fully grieving. They will literally burn the earth and melt concrete.
Folks, please ponder what he just said. The Western leaders, their idiotic foreign policy will result in the burning of the earth and the melting of concrete.
Yes. Now, he goes on to say, we're going to get a lot of it too. In other words, Russia is not going into this blindly, thinking that
they know they're going to lose a lot of people and infrastructure.
Everybody's going to be really, really bad. After all, it is said, and here he quotes Revelation chapter 9, verse 18, from these 3 plagues, from the fire, smoke, and sulfur coming out of their mouths, 1/3 of the people died. But for now, narrow-minded politicians and their obtuse think tanks, thoughtfully spinning a glass of wine in their hands, speculate about how they can deal with us without entering into a direct war. Dull idiots with a classical education. Well, Mr. Medvedev and a lot of the leadership in Russia is looking at this with a whole different set of eyes.
Yes.
And you have the former president of Russia. I was joking around with you earlier when we were preparing for today's Godcast. Mr. Medvedev quotes the Bible so much, he ought to just come out with a prophecy book or a prophecy Bible.
He should.
Because it seems like every time
he wouldn't be able to get it on Christian TV, Doc.
No, not at all. In fact, that passage, let's look at that whole passage there from Revelation chapter 9. It says, and the 4 angels who had been prepared for the hour and the day and month and year were released to kill 1/3 of mankind. The army of horsemen numbered 200 million. I heard their number. Thus I saw the horses in the vision. Those who sat on them had breastplates of fiery red, hyacinth blue, and sulfur yellow. The heads of the horses were like the heads of lions, and out of their mouths came fire and smoke and brimstone. 1/3 of mankind was killed by these 3 plagues, by the fire and by the smoke and by the brimstone, which came out of their mouths. And that's Mr. Medvedev quoting Revelation chapter 9 there. This is a pretty intense scenario.
Can you imagine Joe Biden quoting the book of the Revelation about this war?
And if he was saying that, let's say, saying that about Russia, all right, we're going to war here. Let me quote the Bible and tell you, we're ready to see 1/3 of mankind die, just like the Bible talks about.
Yes.
What would we be thinking about Joe Biden?
That he knows Scripture and he knows prophecy and he knows that we're at the end of time. I think Medvedev knows we're at the end of time. The Russians know it.
And to understand Mr. Medvedev's, posture on this, and all of Russia's posture, they understand that this is a fight for their survival. I'm not cheering it, I'm not for it, but for them, they understand it's live or die with this.
That's their perspective.
They say if there's no Russia in the world, then why should the world exist? Right. We talked about that in the past. So from their perspective, they're ready, as if you say in the poker parlance, they're ready to go all in.
Mm-hmm.
Is the West ready to go all in? Are they willing to take that bet to lose Brussels, to lose London, to lose D.C., to lose New York? Are we really ready to go all in?
I believe that their arrogance and pride will lead them in like a hook in the jaw. That's what I think, Doc. The West is full of pride and arrogance. And it will be like a hook in their jaw, and it will pull them into this war.
Right.
And they don't expect Russia to do it, but the Russians are going to do it. I believe their leadership, we don't know what's going on in the most private councils. We have no idea what the church leaders of the Church of the Russian Orthodox Church, they could be holding meetings in the Kremlin, advising Putin and General Shoigu and others. We're at the end of time. We're up against the Antichrist. They could be thinking like that.
We're up against the decadent West.
Yes.
They are a virus.
Yes.
The West is a virus that has to be eliminated. I mean, that's from their perspective. That's their point of view.
Yes. They could be looking at us as the king of the North that's attacking and invading countries and waging war against the saints. I'm just saying from their perspective, they may be driven with religious zeal that they have to fight this war because it is God's people fighting Satan's people, and they see us as Satan's people. And we give them plenty of evidence that they're right.
Yes, we do.
And anybody looks at American culture right now, it's decadent, it's evil, it's wicked, it's debased, it's disgusting. I mean, here you have Biden's monkeypox czar, and he's a Satanist. He's got a pentagram tattooed on his chest, not just a little one, a big one. An advisor to the President of the United States is a Satanist, a gay homosexual Satanist. That's who's advising Joe Biden. Right? They're not having prayer meetings to Jesus Christ in the White House.
No, they're sitting around a pentagram burning candles, and so, or maybe burning other things too. So
we're marching into World War III, and the pride and arrogance of America and Western Europe is deceiving them into thinking this is going to be easy. They're going to take out Russia. Russia's going to fall. It's not going to come out that way, Doc.
No.
Medvedev told us today 1/3 of the human race is going to die. I mean, this is the 24 years I've done this. I've never seen anything like this. Never, ever have I seen anything like this.
NATO is determined to take Russia out one way or the other.
Yes.
Whether it's by, they thought they could take Russia down economically, and yet Russia still remains.
That was the plan. The plan was to bleed them out, to get the Russian economy to collapse. It's actually made them stronger. And it's made the West weaker. As we're going to see, Europe is going to be a basket case this winter, and the U.S. economy is not doing much better today.
Right. As
we're going to see about what happened in the stock market today. One little clue about World War III. I found this story that this